Right now, the average person spends roughly 70 hours a week looking at a screen.
Shut the front door.
How about you shut the fuck up?
If you often put your phone down feeling exhausted, distracted, or entirely numb, you might be tempted to blame your own lack of willpower.
Guys, that is a nonsense, okay? That is an absolute nonsense.
But that fatigue is the intended byproduct of attention capitalism. In this economic model, your focus is treated as a finite biological resource, and it has become the most heavily traded commodity on Earth.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
When you open an app, you are entering an asymmetrical conflict. You are alone on one side of the screen. On the other side is a team of attention engineers backed by artificial intelligence, using massive data sets to optimize exactly how to extract your focus.
The way I'm going to break a little bit of news on your program, Jesse, our partners that do sort of geotagging with devices, they told us that they tracked over 277,000 devices in the vicinity of State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Wow. 277,000.
Some researchers now refer to this business model as human fracking. To fight back against it, we have to look past the content we consume and reverse engineer the digital weapons being deployed against our biology. Consider the everyday actions of using a smartphone. Gestures like pulling down to refresh or scrolling through an infinite feed feel like natural ways to navigate information. In reality, they are engineered mechanisms designed to command and hold your focus.
Hook, line, and sinker. They got me. They pulled me out of the pond. They got me.
These features rely on a psychological concept called intermittent variable rewards.
Because that's the bait.
Because you never know exactly what you will see when you swipe down, or whether your next post will have 10 likes or 10,000, your brain stays engaged, waiting for a payoff. The architecture of modern apps comes directly from mid-20th century behavioral research. Psychologists like B.F. Skinner discovered that animals placed in experimental chambers would compulsively press a lever if they received food at unpredictable intervals. Your social media feed perfectly replicates this exact operant conditioning.
Because it allows them to operate in broad daylight.
Every time you pull to refresh, you are pulling the lever on a digital slot machine, conditioned to endlessly search for the next payoff. We carry these devices in our pockets under the assumption that they are passive tools for communication.
You were duped. Every one of you. I was at the time.
They are actually highly calibrated behavioral modification machines.
These people are being programmed.
To see why this conditioning is so effective, we have to look inside the brain. Psychologists call it the sunflower seed effect. Our biology heavily prioritizes instant gratification that requires zero physical or cognitive effort. This process starts deep in the midbrain, in a region called the ventral tegmental area, or VTA. When you receive a variable reward, like a notification ping or a new comment, an abstract digital input registers as a biological victory, and the VTA begins to fire. That firing creates a chemical pathway that floods a neighboring region, the nucleus accumbens, with dopamine. For the brain, the interaction delivers a potent chemical high, practically identical to the rush provided by sugar or narcotics. Over time, chronic exposure to these dopamine spikes forces the brain to build a neurochemical tolerance. To reach that same baseline feeling of satisfaction, a user has to consume exponentially more content, scrolling longer and clicking faster.
Who is the marionette?
These digital platforms utilize information as a delivery system for neurochemical changes, bypassing rational choice to ensure continued escalating dependence. This biological hardware is easily exploited because it is tied directly to our social psychology. The algorithms driving these platforms are built to weaponize our evolutionary drive for belonging.
Not a word! Not one word have you said. Fight that! If you're serious, if you're stable, if you're godly, fight that.
Mapping perfectly onto Maslow's hierarchy of needs. As a species, we require peer validation to feel secure. Interface metrics, the exact counts of likes, views, and followers, quantify that social standing, putting constant pressure on our vanity and our desire for approval.
Because if you don't, I don't believe a word you say. I think you serve the Prince of Darkness because you're a hypocrite.
When a post goes ignored or a user faces online rejection, they experience what researchers call the cyberball effect. The human brain processes this lack of engagement using the exact same neural pathways that register physical pain. This chart shows the relationship between the emotional intensity of content and user engagement. The algorithm's ultimate optimization strategy relies on a simple rule. Extreme, polarizing, or clickbait material generates the most emotional volatility, and volatility is the most efficient way to retain attention.
There's nothing more important than the Charlie Kirk assassination because they wanted us to see it.
Yeah.
When the profit incentive specifically rewards the content that causes the most social friction, public discourse becomes a commodity designed for maximum disruption. After hours of continuous attention extraction, the individual user pays a steep physiological cost. The brain enters a state of cognitive burnout, known to psychologists as ego depletion.
And then they wanted to gaslight us and then say there's something wrong with you for not moving on.
Under ego depletion, the mind simply runs out of fuel. You experience diminished sustained attention, your emotional responses become blunted, and your baseline impulsivity spikes. In this state of depletion, the brain loses its capacity for critical thought and reverts to fast, emotional reactions. This collective exhaustion makes a population easier to manipulate, directly fueling the political polarization and social fragmentation we see today. Every hour of screen time represents a literal trade of human lifespan for corporate revenue, spent on platforms engineered to maximize the transaction. Recognizing the hidden mechanics of this extraction engine is the required first step. Only by understanding how our attention is harvested can we reclaim our cognitive autonomy and demand humane.